Hey everyone, in this video we're going to be taking a look at the new Serato DJ version 1.6 beta version, which is now out and available for everyone to download and try out. Version 1.6 is kind of the merging point between Scratch Live and the DVS side and Serato DJ and the controller side. It brings both sides together into one uniform platform. So now version 1.6 finally brings DVS support for most of the previous Rane Scratch Live hardware devices, with the exception of the SL1 and the TTM57. Remember, those will not be supported in Serato DJ, but the SL2, the SL3, the SL4, the Rane 61, 62, and 68 mixers as well are now all supported in Serato DJ version 1.6. So let's just open it, and we're going to take a look at using the SL4 in my case. Might look slightly different depending if you're using an SL2 or an SL3. And also when you open Serato DJ, the 1.6 beta, you'll see this little splash screen saying, warning, this is a beta version, make sure you back up all your stuff. Don't use it at a gig or anything like that, which I know everyone's going to anyways, but here's the warning. You have been warned. Okay, so I'm going to be kind of explaining it more for the new users for Serato DJ coming over from Scratch Live. Everyone that's been using Serato DJ pretty much knows the layout and how it looks and what it does and stuff like that. So mainly I'm going to be coming from the new Scratch Live user perspective and what to expect and learn from in Serato DJ. Now you can see at first glance Serato DJ pretty much, not pretty much, but very similarly looks like Scratch Live. In Scratch Live, up here at the top, you have the different boxes for all the different view modes. Now it's just a drop-down menu, so we have the vertical, horizontal, extended, and the new stack mode, which is a new feature in Serato DJ 1.6. Stack mode was a feature from Scratch Live, but they brought that now to Serato DJ in version 1.6, and we'll take a look at that in a minute. And then finally, the library mode, or the old-school keeping it real mode, as I like to call it. So let's just go through and take a look at each of these. Now, since I'm using the SL4, I have the option between 2 and 4 decks as well. We'll take a look at each side. So this is the vertical 2-deck view mode. Basically, this is the classic Scratch Live view mode that Serato made famous. And then we have the 4-deck view mode right here. And, well, let's load some tracks to it just to make it, give you a better idea with it. We'll load some tracks up in here, right here, up here, and let's just we'll load this guy right up here like that. Alrighty, so this is the 4-deck vertical mode. Let's switch over to horizontal now. We'll switch to 2-deck. Now in Scratch Live, the horizontal view mode was a little bit bigger. I'm only on a 13-inch MacBook, so what is it, 1280 by 800 resolution, and you can see the waveforms are really small. In Scratch Live, it was much wider. But not so in Serato DJ. So if you have a bigger laptop size or screen resolution, then the waveform will stretch out a little bit more, but this is how it looks on a 13-inch MacBook Pro. I much prefer the extended mode now in Serato DJ. This is basically how I wanted horizontal mode to look like in Scratch Live forever. So basically the entire waveform takes up the entire width of the screen. Oops, I forgot to show you 4-deck horizontal. It's 4-deck horizontal right here. So let's switch back to extended now. Alright, so here is 4-deck extended and the 2-deck extended mode. If you click, again, this depends on your screen size and resolution. If you click on, if you hold shift and click on the waveform, that will switch between the smaller collapsed waveform or the bigger expanded waveform. Since on a 13-inch MacBook Pro, you can only get the smaller compressed waveforms in the 4-deck view mode. I don't know, maybe on the Retina 13-inch MacBook Pros, they might be able to expand them all, but I'm just on a non-Retina 13-inch. Alright, so shift plus click on the waveform will expand or collapse the waveform size. So this is the extended mode, or the better horizontal mode, as I like to call it. Now, new in Serato DJ 1.6 is the stack mode. This is a feature from Scratch Live that a lot of people wanted to see in Serato DJ. Well, that comes now in Serato DJ version 1.6. Stack mode is basically another type of horizontal mode, but it's like it says, it stacks the decks on top of each other. So this is what it looks like in 2-deck. This is what it'll look like in 4-deck mode. Now, if you click on this little round clock-looking button right here, that will expand the panels. And depending on which mode you're using, this one's in internal mode. But if you're using relative or absolute mode, you'll get an album art little picture of the track right here. And let's just take a look at library mode, or the old school keeping it real mode. No waveforms or cheats or anything like that. Gives you a bigger library view. And then you have your 4 decks if you're using the SL4, or your 2-deck mode if you're using the SL2 or SL3. Alright, so that is the view modes. let's take a look at some of the new features in Serato DJ 1.6. Basically, they just wanted to get support for all these Scratch Live devices, with, of course, the exception of the SL157. However, one big feature that was in Scratch Live for a while now, but wasn't in Serato DJ, is naming your cue points. This has been a long-standing request for Serato DJ, is to name your cue points like you could in Scratch Live. Well, that comes now in Serato DJ version 1.6. So if you have any cue point set, just double-click it, and you can type in a name for that cue points. Now, I've already went through and named all of these right here. So there you go. Now you can name your cue points in Serato DJ version 1.6. Now, if you want to switch between the text or the time, just hold your Control or Command key down and click on any of the cue points, so that will toggle between the two view modes. Okay. Now, another little feature is how to change between the different modes. Now, in Scratch Live, you had buttons for absolute, relative, through mode, internal mode, etc. Now, this is just a drop-down menu right up here. So you have absolute, relative, and through mode. Through mode, again, is how you play your normal vinyl or CDs, or basically pass the signal through the box. Internal mode is a separate button down here. Again, you have your pitch slider, pitch bend buttons, and your pitch percent range. Alright, but you know, for most DVS users, they're going to be using absolute or relative mode. Okay, let's take a look in the setup menu. Looks pretty similar to Scratch Live. You have your scope views. Again, I'm using SL4, that's why I have 4 of them. Now, most of the features, too, and options in the setup menu are pretty much the same in Scratch Live and do the same thing, so I really don't need to go through those except for maybe a couple new ones. Recording, Scratch Live can only record in AIFF format. Serato DJ gives you the choice between AIFF or WAV format. Sync preferences, there's no smart sync with DVS yet. You basically only have simple sync. You have the options here to snap to the beat grid, and this new option right here maintains sync on track load. For whatever reason, some people like it when they load a new track that it's not automatically synced up, or some people like it that, you know, if sync is on, then it's on. So this option, just for if your preference, if you basically want to, if you're using sync and you want, and when you load a new track, you don't have to hit the sync button again. This will keep it basically on all the times. But like I said, some people like it on, some people like it off. Now, another new feature in Serato DJ 1.6, and this is probably the biggest new feature, is quantization, or quantize mode. Basically, quantize mode is when you're triggering cue points and loops. You don't have to be super precise with it. You can be a little bit off, and it will still trigger on beats and still sound good and seamless. Now, this is probably the biggest new feature in 1.6, next to adding support for all the Scratch Live devices. We'll take a look at using quantize mode next with my DDJ SR controller. Other than that, though, that's pretty much all the new features for Scratch Live version 1.6. Again, this is basically the turning points in Scratch Live and Serato DJ, where they both come together as one software now. So DVS is here with Scratch Live version 1.6. Another device that is now supported in 1.6 as well is the Numark V7 controller. That's probably the last remaining of the itch controllers that was not supported in Serato DJ. Well, that also comes now in version 1.6 as well. Let's step back into the setup menu again, and let's take a look at the CD and vinyl preferences. Again, this is pretty much the same in Scratch Live, just loops with vinyl. Then you have your needle dropping, drop to absolute position or drop to cue points, library and display. Show your iTunes library, protect library, which basically prevents you can't delete crates or rename songs or anything like that. Custom crate views, that's if you want all your crates to have the same column, order, and format. If you want that, then leave that box unchecked. If you want your crates to have different columns and different formatting and sorting, then you want that option checked. Center on selected song, that just if you have a big long list, it keeps the highlight bar in the middle. Include sub-crate tracks, that's if you have a parent crate, then you have multiple sub-crates beneath it. That option will include all the tracks in the sub-crates in that top parent crate as well. Another new feature, actually in 1.5, is the track played color. You can now switch between gray and blue. A lot of people didn't like the gray color because it was very hard to see and tell. It wasn't green like Scratch Live, but they made it blue. Green just kind of is not the color scheme of Serato DJ. As you can see, it's a lot of blue. Scratch Live was kind of a grayish green scheme. So you can switch between blue and gray right here. Your library text size, you can increase or decrease it right here. So if you're really blind, you can You can make it big. You can also use the keyboard shortcut, Command or Control, and plus or minus button that will make the text bigger or smaller. Display. This is basically how fast the screen refreshes. Generally, you want to keep this on 60, otherwise it'll look like it's moving in slow mode and it's not very pleasing. Now, send anonymous usage data to Serato. This is little something Serato kind of put in there. Basically, they just want to collect data on how you use Serato DJ, like how many cue points you use, how many loops, if you use them at all, how long you play for, stuff like that. Now, this is completely anonymous. It doesn't send any user data. It's just basically they want to see how you use Scratch Live, or excuse me, Serato DJ now, and how they can make it better. So it's up to you. You can leave that option checked or unchecked, but I leave it checked. Okay, now let's move on to the mixer section. This generally only applies to controllers that don't have any of these hardware controls. If your controller does have these hardware controls, and these buttons and knobs won't do anything. So this is really for only controllers and not for any of the SL boxes or the Rane mixers. Effects, this is where you add which effects you want to use, or to buy the expansion packs effects as well. So you have your list over here on the left side. This is what I have. I have pretty much all the effects right now. And then over here on the right side are the ones I want to use, which is basically all of them. Of course, you don't have to put all the effects if you don't use them all. And you can also use your favorite FX list as well to create your own custom groups of effects that you like to use. MIDI, this is the same like in Scratch Live. This basically just shows you what MIDI devices you have connected and all your presets down here. Audio, the only one on this page is the buffer size. Again, so to the left is lower latency, which is good for if you want to scratch, or basically low latency. To the right, towards 20, is higher latency, more delay, not good for scratching. So, this basically just depends on how you mix, if you scratch it all, or how much your computer can handle it. Again, the lower the latency, the more it takes on the computer, but, most people have, i-Core processor laptops now, so it shouldn't be a problem running at the lowest latency. And again, over here on the expansion packs, this is where you enable options like the Serato Video, the SP6 player, the Serato playlist, or if you're using the iPad Serato remote, or also the new iPhone version of the Serato remote that just came out last week as well. That'll be in here as well. So this is the setup menu in Serato DJ. Very similar to Scratch Live, so everyone should be at ease there. Okay, so that's it for Serato DJ version 1.6. We're going to take a look at basically the only big new feature in it, and that is the Quantize mode, and also Snap mode as well. So again, like I said, Quantize is when you're triggering cue points and loops. Basically, you don't have to be super precise when triggering them. You can be a little bit off, but it'll still trigger to the nearest beat grid, and it'll be nice and smooth and seamless, and it'll sound good. And we'll take a look at that next. Alright, so finally let's take a look at using the Quantize and Snap mode new in Serato DJ version 1.6. Now the Quantize button is going to be this cute little button up here at the top. So what Quantize does is basically when you're triggering cue points or setting cue points, you don't have to be super precise. You can be a little bit off in the timing and it will still trigger on time and on beat and snap to the nearest beat grid and still sound seamless and sound good. Now, as I mentioned, this cue button up here is how you enable Quantize. Now, if we go into the setup menu, though, and on the DJ preferences page, on the very bottom, the Quantize value. You have different values that you can choose from. You have a half beat, 1 beat, 2 beats, or 4 beats. For most people, I think 1 beat is going to be what they're going to want to use. Some people might even prefer a half beat. 2 beat and 4 beat, though, is a little bit... I just really don't see the use for anything more than 1 beat. 2 beat and 4 beat are just not very common values, at least not for DJing purposes. So for the most people, 1 beat will probably be what they're going to want to use, or maybe a half beat as well. I personally like 1 beat, so that's what we're going to use, and what I'm going to demonstrate. So let's just start off with setting a cue point. I'm here on my DDJ SR. Okay, so let's move ahead. Now, normally when you set a cue point, wherever the playhead is where the cue point gets set. Now, if you have the Quantize button mode engaged, though, it also includes a snap functionality. So even if you're not exactly on the beat marker here at the 1, so let's just press the cue point to trigger it. You'll see it sets it right there on that beat grid, right at the first part. Now, as I mentioned, if you don't have Quantize set, wherever you press the cue point is where the pad or the cue point will get set. So I turned it off quantize, so if we hit it again, you'll see that it hits it right here on the white line, which is where the playhead is. So when you engage quantize, it also includes a snap functionality, and it will snap to the nearest beat grid and set the cue points. Let's get rid of that one right there. Okay, so let's just go ahead and play a track, and so you can hear how the different how basically quantize mode works. So let's just play the track. Okay, so as mentioned, you don't have to be super precise with the timing. Right now I have quantize off right now, so when you trigger your cue points, you can basically drum it like that. However, if you try to do that with the quantize mode on, it's not going to work. You can't keep hitting it repeated like that. You see, every time I'm pressing it really fast now, and it keeps it's basically, that's the quantize function right there. Basically, it's always doing that kind of like a one beat loop on time like that. So that's what it refers to. You don't have to be super precise in timing. So normally, if I want to trigger a cue point, every one of these solid lines right here is basically 4 beats. So I can be a little bit off right there, not on the exact beat mark, and it still triggers it on time and on beat and snaps to the beat grid. So that is the basically the quantize functionality. Let's take a better listen to it. Let's switch to the pad plus mode. Now normally, let's turn quantize off, and this is how it sounds. Oh, it's basically a buzzing sound. We don't want that. Let's do. Okay, let's move that back. There we go. That's what I want to do. Okay, so that's without quantize on. This is with quantize on. Okay, so you can hear the difference right there, how the quantize works. It basically triggers the cue points and loops on beats and on time too. So you don't have to be precisely on time, on the 1 count or the 4 count or whatever when you're triggering your cue points for them to sound good. So basically, quantize, that is quantize mode. Again, it's this little cue button up here at the top to disengage and engage it. And remember, in the setup menu, you have your different values that you can select: half beat, 1 beat, 2, and 4. Again, as I mentioned, 1 beat will probably what most people want to use. Maybe half beat. I really don't see much use for 2 or 4 beats. Serato may even change that, take them out, or add different values as well. It could be some other values people like to see, like maybe 3/4 timing. I don't know. But there you go. So that is the quantize mode feature, new in Serato DJ version 1.6. And that basically wraps up my first look at Serato DJ version 1.6 as well. As I mentioned, it is now in public beta for you to download and go and try out. Brings basically all the previous Scratch Live hardware devices together with the DVS functionality. So both DVS and controllers are now in one program and one software now, starting with Serato DJ version 1.6.